And welcome to a new watercolour video. Today I'm painting this little row of cute whimsical houses in watercolours. I'm using Daniel Smith watercolours and I'll list them all in the description below. I'm also using Archie's paper again, a couple of black fine liner pens today, and I'll list everything in the description below for you. So this one's a little bit more complicated because there's a little bit more detail, so I'll show you how to get the image onto your watercolour paper.
Come on, soft, turn the key and cooler on. Push the pause for relief. Free pass, you don't even have to ask to be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through. Today I've got better things to do. Okay, to leave a little bit undone and be the cat in the sun.
So I've got the pencil sketch transferred and then I'm going to go over the lines with a black fine liner pen. So this is a really tiny one, 0.1. I don't really want thick lines, so I'm going over the pencil marks quite loosely just to give that kind of whimsical look, you know, making some of the lines a little bit scratchy. And then I'm going to erase the pencil lines. So I've just done this first house just to show you as an example. And as you can see, the lines are just very thin and a little bit messy, a little bit sketchy looking.
Set aside every empty spreadsheet line and loosen up on the grind. Simmer down, settle back and mess around. Be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through. Today I've got better things to do. Okay, to leave a little bit undone. Be the cat in the sun. Be the cat in the sun.
So I'm going to start with some blue for the sky. I'm going to use this lovely manganese blue here. So this is manganese blue hue. And I want it to be quite strong because I'm going to drop it into a wet paper. So this is going to be wet on wet. Don't need too much actually, I think that's quite a lot. So if you get the paint made up first and then it's ready to go when you need it. So I'm going to start above the roofs and I'm going to wet the paper just in the whole of the sky area. And I'm going to do that right to the top of the paper. I'm going to take it right down the sides. Tilt the paper so you can see where you've missed any bits. Just make sure that there's kind of an even layer of water over the surface. Then I'm grabbing some of the manganese blue and I'm going to drop that in, but I'm not going all the way to the top. So if we just do it like this, then it'll just be a nice soft edge. And then I'm going to leave some just some little white gaps further down towards the roofs, so it just looks like there's some kind of clouds. Just create the shape that you find more interesting around the edge. I'm going to take some of this out here because I don't want that. It was too harsh, the edge. I'm actually going to get some stronger manganese blue straight from the pan, and I'm going to make it a little bit stronger around this area in the middle, especially around this area because this is going to be orange brick, so it'll stand out really nice against the blue. I don't want too much. I'm going to dry that off with the heat gun. Next I'm going to mix some buff titanium and then some more buff titanium mixed with a little bit of Jane's grey. That's going to be for the first house, so I'm going to paint the whole thing with buff titanium. And get some of the darker mix. I'm just going to drop in just in some areas just to give a little bit of interest. I'm going to go underneath the eaves. And then just around some of the bricks. Just going to leave that to dry and move on to the next one. So we'll just do like a base layer on all the houses first and then add some shadowing later. For the next house I'm going to mix some of that manganese blue again, and I'm going to mix that with Sodalite. I'm going to dull that down so we've got quite a muted blue. Paint the whole thing in the watery version. Then get some of the darker version, just like before, drop some dark areas in, so kind of especially around the bottom. Now this house is in front of this one, so we're going to make it quite dark here, so it looks a bit like a shadow. Maybe a little bit of mix for this one. Raw sienna, this is raw sienna light in the Daniel Smith, but just any raw sienna will do. So I want the light watery kind of mix. And then for the darker mix, I want some more of that raw sienna light and a little bit of Jane's grey. So same again, paint the whole thing. And then we want to make this fairly dark, because this one, if you notice, I've overlapped these two houses. If you look at the sides here, you can see that they're slightly overlapping. So this one is kind of set back from the others. So I want to create some dark shadowing on this. So I'm dropping that dark mix in along the edges. And then quite a lot in the bottom area. And hopefully, it's run into there, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this house. Why did I do that? I mean, it doesn't matter. It's supposed to be whimsical, so it'll probably look okay. Just a little bit of shading under here, not much. Now for the top part of the house, the brickwork, I'm doing Aussie Red Gold, which is lovely and bright. Nice bright rusty orange. And I'm going to get some of the Quinacridone Burnt Orange as the darker colour. I'm going to leave this house out and go to this one while all that dries. I've mixed some burnt sienna into this Aussie Red Gold, and I'm going to do that on this roof here. And then I'm going to drop in some burnt umber into that. So I just got burnt umber straight from the pan, and I'm just going to create a little bit of shadowing just kind of down this side, so the tree will cast a shadow over the roof, and then just a little bit to the bottom and underneath here. So for the main part of this little house, I'm going to do buff titanium and a little bit of burnt sienna. I've got a little bit of Jane's grey on the brush, and I'm going to create a little bit of shadowing here, so as though the tree is casting a shadow down onto the house. I'm going to dry that off. Right, I'm going to fix this because it's kind of spoiling the illusion, so I'm just going to wet it with some clean water on the brush, agitate it a little bit, and just lift it out as best I can. But it seems to be actually really staining. It's really stained. It must be that raw sienna light. It must be quite a staining colour. And then just try and fill that in with the blue. I mean, as long as it's light in colour, that's all I need really. I want it to be lighter than this little area here. I also want to make it a little bit lighter across this edge. So I'm lifting some of that out. I'm going to use one of these eradicator. So these are just handy little brushes to have. If you haven't got one, I would recommend getting one. I've got 2 sizes in the Rosemary and Co, and then the smallest one in the Billy Shovel, and they're very, very stiff at the end, so you can scrub at the paper to try and lift a colour out that's difficult to get out. I mean, it is ruining the surface of the paper because I'm rubbing fairly hard, but it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. Just want to get this light here, and then I'm going to absorb that up. Just add a little bit of blue to this side. That looks a bit better. I want this to be a little bit more orange, so I've got a really watered down mix of that, the one that I used for this roof, and I'm going to glaze that over the top just to give it a little bit. It's because it's too much similar to this colour, and I'm trying to make them kind of you know, different in colour, all the houses. Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. This house, I'm going to make this one a grey colour, so I'm going to just use the Jane's Grey. So again, just watery mix, just like all the others, and then drop in some darker areas. Okay, that's completely dry, and I'm going to move on to the trees now. So I'm going to mix up a few different shades. So Quinacridone Gold, and then we've got that Aussie Red Gold mix, and I'm going to add some of the burnt Sienna Light to that, and a little bit of raw Umber, so we've got a brown as well, and some raw Sienna Light. So I'm just going to dab in these 4 colours, so they're nice autumn coloured trees. I'm just going to start by adding a little bit of water across the top. I've got a little bit of colour on my brush, but that's fine, because I just want it to be a bit watery across the top. Drop in some of that Aussie Red Gold. Yeah, I'm just dropping in the different mixes. So that's just about dry now. I've got some of the raw umber on my brush, and I'm just going to do just some little dotty shapes around the bottom with that colour. You know, they're just going to be kind of low detail, these trees.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow, windows open, you are basking in the bluegrass radio. It is easy now to see you with your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the
I'm going to add a little bit of blue here, just to kind of fill that little bit in there. Right, now I'm going to paint in the roofs, so I'm going to get some, I'm going to use this little liner brush, and this one I'm using the Quinacridone Burnt Orange. I'm making it quite a strong mix. I'm just going to paint these little roof tiles in.
could not forget, folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway shade our leisurely goodbyes. In your terry cotton sweater with your arms sweeping the sky.
Now with a watery mix of Jane's Grey, I'm going to fill in all the window areas.
You were waving till the bend. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
Then with some strong sepia, I'm going to add the little, just little trunks onto these trays. Now I'm going to do just some little finishing details, such as colouring the doors in these little roofs in.
And your shadow to the coast, past the surfing whitewashed beaches, under cypress trees and smoke, carved like lovers into driftwood. On this moment I depend. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
And now I'm going to add some final shadows to kind of the eaves and underneath the windows. So I'm going to use the same colour that's already on there, but dark, like a darker version of that colour. So I'm going to use the raw umber for this one. So it's like a darker brown, and I'm going to put a shadow, a strong shadow underneath here. Now I'm going to get some really watered down Jane's Grey and just add a little bit of shading to some of the white framework. So I'm not really, this is just kind of random, just so that it's not all stark white. So there's no real method to it. I'm just going to just take away some of the white. And like these longer bits, I'm kind of putting the shading more to the bottom. That's where we are so far. Now I'm going to add just a pavement outside, just a very basic pavement with some Jane's Grey. So I'm going to put a strong line across the bottom. Clean the brush, just get a little bit of water, and then I'm just with the side of the brush just rubbing back and forth on the bottom line. And a little bit more colour there. So the final step is I'm going to get a larger fine liner, so this is 0.3, and I'm going to emphasize some of those black lines. I'm also going to add some chimneys. I forgot to add chimneys, so I'll draw some chimneys in. Okay, I'll colour those in at the end. But I need to go over these lines because, as you can see, the lines have kind of got lost a little bit. So the good thing about starting with a really small super fine point at the beginning is if you want to add any more at the end, you can make the choice of which lines you want to make a little bit thicker, and then they're not all the same thickness, because that can look a bit crappy if they're just all exactly the same. So like for example on these, I'm just going to just do some of them thicker. So I've also gone back over some of that brickwork because that was kind of lost in the paint, and this one was covered up because the buff titanium is quite opaque. On some of the doors they've got these metal grids, so I'm going to emphasize those. And I think I'll add a few birds in the sky. Okay, so that's the final picture. I think I'll leave it at that. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thanks very much for watching. Please like and hype the video if you get the option to hype the video, and I'll be back with another video on Wednesday. So thank you very much for watching.